Hi, I'm Andrew Karboski, a composer and sound designer. I'll be showcasing an interactive music demo I made in Audiokinetic's Wwise. The music is all original and was purpose-written for this demo. I figured I should write in a less well-known genre so I would stand out, but then I ended up writing superhero music. I've routed the music through a trigger, which will start the demo. And off we go. What Wwise is playing right now is being dictated by the main state and the combat level state. In the Project Explorer, you can see that leads to the main state switch, to the combat switch, and then finally to the low-level playlist. This playlist contains a random continuous group with 3 equally weighted segments. The random continuous group is set to loop infinitely, so that when the player returns from their coffee break, the music will still be playing. This segment, as indicated by the name, can be manipulated via an RTPC. I've set up an intensity parameter from 0 to 100 and set it to affect certain tracks within the segment. When the parameter decreases, they get quieter. And when it increases, they get louder. Don't worry, more interesting things are coming up. This segment also features vertical randomization. Chosen tracks are placed into random containers alongside blank subtracks, so Wwise will sometimes choose to play the track or nothing. I'll change the combat state from low to medium. The transition will occur at the nearest exit cue. This combat state showcases a different way to interact with the intensity RTPC. I've routed the RTPC through a switch group and dictated 4 levels of intensity from 0 to 25, 25 to 50, and so on. In the music segment, each instrument group has a switch that determines whether or not the track will play at a given intensity level. As the intensity increases, we'll start to hear percussion, French horn, and the rest of the brass. Besides using RTPCs and switches to interact with gameplay intensity, this demo also utilizes states. Let's ramp up the intensity by changing the combat level state from medium to high. The top level is a random continuous group that randomly selects from these 4 options. Within some of the options are sequence continuous groups that play through their music segments linearly. This segment contains more vertical randomization. This track consists of 4 subtracks within a random step container. 2 of the tracks are different background parts and the other 2 are empty, meaning we'll hear the empty parts 50% of the time. And when we do, there's a 50% chance it'll be one background or the other. Located inside this random step group are 2 boisterous melody segments that shouldn't be played next to each other. By using a random step group, I've ensured that Wwise will only choose to play one, then cycle back to the top level random continuous group and choose from the other 4 paths. This playlist also utilizes a stinger. I imagine that this would activate when the player defeats a bigger enemy like a juggernaut or a tank. I set up a heavy defeat trigger, and on select music segments, tied the trigger to the stinger music segment. The stinger segment consists of 3 subtracks in a random step container, which will choose one of the 3 to play at the next beat following the trigger. In order for the stinger to stand out in the mix, I've ducked the Combat Explorer music bus via sidechain compression that uses an RTPC to monitor the level of the stinger, which is set to control the bus volume. The player is about to enter a boss fight. To get from this music playlist to the boss music switch, I've implemented a transition that uses this track as a bridge. The change needs to be quick, so the transition is told to take place on the next bar following the state change. The Boss Stage 1 playlist has the same vertical and horizontal randomization as the previous playlists, so I'll use this playlist to showcase the player health system. I created a game parameter that monitors player health from 0 to 100. I tied the parameter to a game switch that activates the low player health music segment, which loops infinitely when the player's health is below 30. The RTPC also decreases the volume and enables a low-pass filter on the combat exploration bus, following a curve that starts at 30 and increases in effect all the way to 0. Now I'll change the main state to Boss Stage 2, which will activate a transition at the nearest custom cue. Each segment within the Boss Stage 1 playlist contains custom cues that allow Wwise to transition at times that make musical sense. I imagine during this final boss stage, the player is delivering crushing finishing blows to the boss. In order to reinforce this, I've implemented low brass stingers that would trigger with each blow. The Boss Stage 2 playlist consists of 4 segments looped linearly, but each are in a different key. I've created 4 stingers to match each key, and on the main segment, I've tied the boss fight trigger to the stinger that matches the key. That way, when the trigger is activated, only the stinger of the matching key is played. The player has just defeated the boss, so Wwise will play a transition segment on the nearest bar, then play the victory music. That's the end of my Wwise interactive music demo. There are an incredible number of things possible in middleware that help increase music interactivity, both in the moment-by-moment gameplay and in the overall narrative arc. I hope you found something here interesting. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.